Hi, grade ones. Hi, squad. Nice to see you. Happy Tuesday afternoon. I hope that you're having a great day so far. Today was a really exciting, special morning for me because 2 weeks ago, when we ended school and we knew that we weren't going to come back for March break and not for a couple weeks afterwards, on the last day, I collected all the library books that I had from the Toronto Public Library. I threw them into a bag and I brought them home in my car, and I just tucked them into the basement before I could go return them to the library. And I forgot about them. Now the library's closed, so I knew that it was okay that I didn't return them, but I forgot that I had this big bag of books. And some of you had a chance to see them really quickly before in that last week of school, because I got a whole bunch of books about animals and bears and hibernation and different things that we were starting to talk about, that we were learning about in our study. And so I was so excited when I found this big bag, because I now have this huge bag. I'm going to lift it up and show you of all these amazing books from the Toronto Public Library. And I got an email from the library saying that nobody's going to get any fines during this time, and it's okay to keep your books and to take care of them. So I feel super lucky that I have this huge big bag of books. And I was looking through them all and thinking about what would be a great one to share with you today. And I found this beautiful book called A Voice for the Spirit Bears. Look how beautiful that is. I love the way that the shadow of the person and the tree looks like the bear. So see, if I turn it upside down, can you see that? Isn't that amazing? So we're going to read this story today, and it is based on a true story, and it is how one boy inspired millions to save a rare animal, which I think is really special and really beautiful for us to talk about and think about today. So let's read A Voice for the Spirit Bears. Here we go. I think you're really going to like the pictures in this one today too. They're very, very creative. Simon peered through a telescope from a lookout post in Yellowstone National Park. Hours ticked by. Rain soaked his clothes. Still, he didn't budge. Finally, a mother grizzly bear emerged from the pine forest with two playful cubs by her side. She was huge, especially when she stood on her hind legs. Coyotes quickly retreated. No one messed with a grizzly. 7-year-old Simon wished he was as powerful as a bear. Back home, he felt anything but powerful. Words formed clearly in his head, but when he opened his mouth, the sounds collided. It's just nervousness that makes him stutter, the doctor said reassuringly. He'll be fine. On the playground, Simon didn't feel fine. Kids teased him, chose him last, or not at all. But in the woodlands behind his house, he felt happier. There he talked easily to the squirrels. He photographed the wildlife. He read and reread books, especially his favorite one about a grizzly named Wob. Simon also liked watching the news with his parents. One day there was a story about a forest above Canada's border in Alaska that needed protection. The trees were going to be cut down, destroying the homes of the brown bears that lived there. Those bears are helpless, thought Simon. It's not fair. The next day he opened a lemonade stand. Ha ha ha, help save the bears, he called as people passed by. He wrote to the Canadian Prime Minister and the President of the United States and sent the $60 he'd raised to stop the cutting. Simon was thrilled when a few months later he heard on the news that a park had been created for the bears. His words had helped make a difference. There's a lot going on in this picture, so I'll give you a moment to really see where he's got his lemonade stand happening and looks like listening to the radio in his room. His words had helped make a difference. In school, it was harder to make a difference. Instead of waiting for Simon to get his words out, kids finished his sentences for him. Most lunchtimes, he ate in the bathroom to avoid bullies. On those tough days, Simon focused on his love of bears, reading about them for hours. The summer he turned 13, he became fascinated with a rare type of black bear called the spirit bear. 1 in 10 of these special bears was born with the creamy white fur that gave them their name. And they were found only in the Great Bear Rainforest. That was just a few hours' journey from his home. But there too, loggers were shrinking the bear's habitat by cutting down trees. Once again, Simon felt he had to do something. But what? If 1 letter had worked before, he thought, imagine what lots of letters could do. We were talking, grade 1s, remember, about habitat and where animals live and what happens when humans impact those habitats. This is really showing us a clear example of that. As Simon stood in front of his classmates, his legs shook, his hands were sweaty, his brain raced. Be powerful like the grizzly from Yellowstone, he told himself. Try. The spirit bears had no voice, so he had to find his. He opened his mouth and his words spilled out and snapped into place. By protecting the home of the spirit bears, we can ensure that they will be wild and free forever. Simon went on to explain that if the bears were chased from their home to live among regular black bears, these rare animals would be lost forever. He visited every classroom in the school. He convinced students to put pen to paper, to stand up for what was right. 700 letters flooded the government. Wow. All in his own school, friends. Wow. But the cutting continued. Simon refused to give up. Talking to people is like dropping a pebble in the pond and seeing the ripples. He told his mom, if I can reach 1 person, they can reach another, and so on. So he wrote out what he needed to say. He memorized the words and rehearsed again and again, a trick he had discovered that stilled his stuttering. Wanting to be taken seriously, he visited businesses and other schools wearing his suit and tie. Some of the kids made fun of him, calling him bear boy and weirdo, words that stung. Stand tall, like the grizzly from Yellowstone, Simon kept reminding himself. Wow, he's being incredibly brave. Even though folks are being unkind and saying mean things, he's still standing up for what he believes and what's right. I'm very impressed with Simon. The next year, Simon asked some friends to help him start a group they would call the Spirit Bear Youth Coalition. His idea was that students from around the world, kids who cared about the bears the way he did, could share information in school and online. In time, millions joined, boosting his confidence. Simon even found himself writing to journalists and thundering away at rallies for the environment. By saving the spirit bears, you're protecting all the other life around them. I think that's really important too, to think about grade 1s and squad, how we've been talking about in our class, how everything is important to everything else, and so we're all connected, and when we take away one type of animal, we impact a lot of other animals, and that's really important, and it really seems like Simon really understands that, which is beautiful. More and more people began to pay attention. Famous actors, pop stars, and members of royalty joined their voices with Simon's. He even became friends with the world-famous wildlife conservationist Dr. Jane Goodall, who had become interested in Simon's work after meeting him on a boat trip. That's really cool. I'd love to meet Jane and Simon. Then a team of researchers asked Simon to join their expedition to study spirit bears. It was the chance of a lifetime. He begged his parents to let him go, even though actually seeing one of the white bears would be a long shot. Finally, they said yes. Yes! For days, Simon and the team hiked over jagged rocks, across streams, and down slippery slopes in the Great Bear Rainforest. To Simon, it felt like they were walking in a forest right out of a fairy tale. Then one afternoon, as he crouched in a bed of leafy skunk cabbage, Simon heard a twig snap. He looked up and saw a chocolate-eyed spirit bear sniffing the air. "Stay still," one of the researchers whispered. "We don't want him to feel threatened in any way." Simon stayed calm, and his words to the bear came easily. "I won't let you down." With that, the spirit bear ambled away, taking Simon's promise with it. Wow. What a beautiful moment for Simon and that spirit bear. And Simon did keep his promise. For the next few years, he continued to work with other activists, forestry companies, local indigenous communities, and the government until, finally, land in the Great Bear Rainforest was awarded to the spirit bears. Simon Jackson had given the spirit bears a voice by first finding his own. Yay, wow. Gosh, that's a beautiful story. I'm so happy that I found this bag of library books and I was able to share this with you. And what's really special is there's a picture of the real life Simon. Do you want to see? Real Simon Jackson. I told you at the beginning that this is a story based on a true story, something that really happened. And here he is. That's Simon. That's the real Simon Jackson. And there's a lot of great information about him and what he did and kind of telling the story again. But when I was reading the back and I saw that this was based on the life and work of Simon Jackson, I saw that he was born in 1982, which is the same year I was born. He was born and grew up in Vancouver, and I was born and lived a little bit in Toronto, but we're both Canadian. And I thought it was really interesting that we were born in the same year because it made me think about, wow, when Simon was 7 years old and having his lemonade stand, I was also 7 years old at the same time. And grade ones, many of you, some of you have turned 7, and a lot of you are turning 7 very, very soon as the year goes along. So I think we can really understand and really connect with Simon and what he was thinking about and what he was doing when he was 7, and thinking about what's important to you and what really matters to you. You know, you're all almost 7, and what are things that you can do to take care of animals or plants or the environment that really matter to you. Simon loves bears, and a lot of you know that I love bears, and you remember my bear tattoo that's on my arm under my sleeve right now. But think about something that you really love. Think about something in our environment that means a lot to you, and maybe you can start to think about things the way that Simon did and learn a lot about something and think about how you can take care of it. So there's also a beautiful picture of a real spirit bear there, a nice beautiful picture. And I believe on the last page there's one more which is really beautiful, and I can see that it says who took the picture, and Simon is the person who took this photograph. So look at that beautiful picture of that beautiful animal, you know, living happily and fresh and healthy. And it says that this is a male spirit bear who's about 15 years old on Princess Royal Island. That is so amazing. Grade ones, I'm going to put a little bit, and squad of course, I'm going to put a little bit of information below the video with a few keywords so that you can maybe do a little more research and learn a little bit more about it. See, does Simon Jackson still do things to help the bears? This story, let's see if I can see when this book was published. I think that'll give us a better understanding of how old this story is. The book looks quite new to me. Yeah, and it was published in 2019, so that's just last year. So I imagine that there are probably a lot of things that you can see and learn on the internet about Simon Jackson. So I'm going to look for some links, maybe to some videos or to some web pages. I'll see what I can dig up and find that you might really enjoy to learn more about all of this. So thank you so much for sharing A Voice for the Spirit Bears with me, how one boy inspired millions to save a rare animal. Awesome. And it really shows you the power of just one person inspiring other people and what they can do. And you are never too young to make a big difference and inspire anybody. And so I hope that this really makes you think and makes you wonder and ask some great questions about what maybe you can think about and what you care about. All right. A Voice for the Spirit Bearers, grade 1's squad. It was so nice to see you. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be back tomorrow with more stories, maybe from the big bag of library books that I'm so excited I found. I even want to show you one. There's a really cool one called Secrets of Animal Camouflage. Ooh, doesn't that look good? That one really looks good. What else do I have in here? Oh, this one, I showed this to Will. He loved it. Wolf Pups Join the Pack. Look at those little cuties. Aren't they great? Oh, I love the public library. I feel so lucky to have this big bin of Toronto Public Library books. All right, Miss Sweetman loves you very much. I miss you all, and I will see you tomorrow. Mwah. Bye.